What's going on, everybody? But let's go back to the basics. I want to break down today's post because it's so important and it's easy to do, but even easier to do wrong, if that makes sense. So again, I'm trying to promote when we run, instead of pulling yourself forward, I want you to push. And when you push, push with the tush, not the hamstrings, not the calves. This is a great foundational movement. So I'm going to break it down. So you'll see for the setup, a couple things. I rolled up a pillow. You could use a towel, but this is important because this is going to give you feedback if you're doing this exercise correctly or not. You're going to place that between your shoulder blades. Then you're going to support your neck. Make sure your neck's not too far forward, too far back. I like to use the cue. Imagine like I'm holding an apple between my chin. I don't want to drop that apple. So lightly supporting my head. I'm not pulling on my neck at all. And what you're going to see is my knees and my ankles are bent to 90. Instead of having my foot flat, and commonly the feet are too close to your butt, push your feet out a little bit. Lift your ankles. And before you lift your hips, before you lift up, I want you to imagine like you're activating your glutes. Like you're using the analogy of imagine like you're picking up an acorn with your butt cheeks. It'd be weird, don't do it. But that's what you're doing here. And then as you're lifting your hips in the air, what's the primary mover? Your glutes. You should be driving through your heels and using your butt to lift you up. Be careful. If you feel your hamstrings cramping, that means you're predominantly moving your hips up more than your glutes. There's a reason for that. Your hamstrings are a two-joint muscle. The longer the muscle, it tends to be more problems sometimes. So your hamstrings and your glutes share a similar role. They both extend your hip, but your hamstrings also bend your knee. So just the mechanics of it, your glute max is better able to propel forward, but we sit on our tush all day. There's no blood supply. It becomes sleepy tush. So I want this to be your butt that's lifting you up, not your hamstrings. So notice how with that rolled up pillow or the towel, I'm creating a fulcrum. My body, my hips are lifting up and I'm using my butt. You're going to know if you're doing it right or you're going to know you're doing it incorrectly if you see your body translate up higher. I've done this before by having my head right up against the wall, and that way it bonks the wall. That tells me I'm using my quads. And so again, think about this aha moment. If I'm getting this upward movement when doing this exercise, you probably are bounding. You're probably not pushing with the tush. You're probably doing this up and down using your quads. So that gives you some immediate feedback to make sure you're using your glutes and not your quads primarily for this exercise if you're translating up. So don't translate. The other common compensation that we'll do is we'll lift our hips up by just arching your low back. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to use your glute max to lift your hips up. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, epiphanies, I'm your guy. Let me know.